It's nice to speak with you today, Bipul. Looking forward to hearing your views on supply chain planning. And
Thank you, Dustin. Thanks for this opportunity.
can you first talk about what is supply chain planning and why is it important?
So basically, this the supply chain is to to manage the entire movement of the goods right from the supplier to the to the end customer. And why planning is important because over the period the the supply chain has evolved in many ways, right from Ford to Toyota to Dell. And it is important because unless until you plan, you have a better planning. Unless until you forecast, your forecasting, if you don't use a proper forecasting method, you won't be able to predict, and then you won't be able to match the requirement. And if you go back in the history, if you go backward in the time, once upon a time the customer was happy with a black car, whereas today customer is far more demanding, less loyal, and less patient as well. So they don't want to wait. Considering all these things, planning is the planning is extremely important for any supply chain, and that becomes as the this the what would I say, one of the key areas, because the one thing which has is the challenging one is the reduced life cycle. Nowadays customers wants to buy frequently. It is not that it's like the earlier one, when they were buying the new product when the older one was unusable. So this, all put together, this makes the supply chain challenging, and that is why this planning is become very important.
Can you talk about how supply chain planning is done effectively?
So what we, so far what we have been doing in this, this company is that we have been collecting the data from the, from the point of sale, and then we are, analyzing those datas. This, and then we are doing the echelon inventory management using the various methods of the forecasting. So by doing that, we are mitigating the, we are mitigating the risk of um, this bullwhip effect. What happens that when this the individual, the members of the supply chain, if they do the forecasting at their own, they always give us the inflated data. So to avoid that, we have started collecting the data from the point of sale, and that's helped us in immensely in, eliminating the the extra inventory, and that also help us to minimize the inventory which makes us agile. So we are lean as well as agile. If we would talk about the method we have, we have products like which has label kind of a demand. There are some products which are trend. There are some products which have seasonality. So we use all those methods, weighting, moving average, exponential, silver spoon states. So hold models. So those models we use while doing the forecasting.
Any final recommendations about supply chain planning?
Well, the recommendation would be to have a better system in place, to have visibility, clarity about the So that is one thing which all the supply chain wants to be there in their system. So to have a proper tracking that the vehicles, that the trucks which is being used are properly equipped. So I mean this there is a lack of I would say lack of proper training and all that. So that's a huge requirement of the training and all that, the institutes. So that would be the recommendation.
Could you provide us with a brief background about yourself?
Well, I have done my postgraduate diploma in supply chain, and I started working with a custom clearing and freight forwarding company. And then I was moved on to to work on a greenfield project, which was a float glass manufacturing plant. And here I was basically in this company, I was responsible for the the redesigning the process and the supply chain network. So basically I'm into what I have done, and it's basically the inventory planning, the network redesigning, the forecasting, demand planning. So this is what I do, and this is what I mean, just a brief summary about my the experience and the role, the various role which I have handled in past.